Today it's time to look at something most didn't know they needed, a sequel to an ancient relic of a bygone era when memes were simple and innocent, and politics was still just the business of old, boring folks. A time when we enjoyed the simple pleasures in life and we were free to be goofy and fun without anxiety. A time when we could just play a game, without first considering if what we were consuming was some kind of allegory for an ideology we didn't subscribe to. A much simpler time. So come with me, dear viewer, let's embark on a trip down nostalgia lane. As this fine holiday season, we've been given the gift of a sequel to 420 Blaze It, Game of the Year. Good. Now, this is a proper sequel to a Game Jam game released almost exactly a decade prior to this in 2014, and is an actual proper, you can go buy it right now on Lord Gaben's website, Steam release. On the surface, it looks like an absurd asset flip and probably something that most people would look at with curiosity, but probably also some semblance of disdain. So I guess we're gonna need to dive right in here. Alright. 2014 and the years leading up to it, besides being a literal decade ago, feels like an entirely different era at this point. I don't mean the sort of difference you see separating the decades like the 80s and 90s. In the time since then, it feels like we've come to live in an entirely different world, and looking back at it now, being on the internet in the early 2000s feels like an age of innocence. An era where creativity blossomed on places like Newgrounds. An era where the games we played felt like were actually changing everything. And notably, it was also an era when the only time people really brought up politics was just to make fun of George Bush Jr. for being utterly retarded.
We must do everything we possibly can to stop the terror.
Soon came YouTube and consumer level capture cards, and then, well, gaming content was off to the races. The memes back in this era were like the single cell organisms of the eventual rise and evolution of like an entire medium of communication. I still don't even really know what some of them were about, like the goddamn frog on a unicycle. Like, does anyone know why that was funny at the time, or was it just like a cultural enigma that everyone went along with? So the first 420 Blaze It came into cultural zeitgeist like anything else. It got picked up by a popular YouTuber and got an insane amount of views pretty much overnight. This particular YouTuber was, of course, PewDiePie. And while personally I never truly understood the appeal of the guy, I definitely respect his popularity. 420 Blaze It was a Game Jam game made by a dude named Andy Sum, who curiously is also the guy behind the massively popular mobile game Crossy Road. What a weird crossover. I guess it only took him a week to put together, and well, it only takes all of 10 minutes to play, but those 10 minutes are a visceral attack of the senses. Truly an unforgettable experience. Now, all these years later, we've been given a proper game as a sequel, and all the MLG pro gamers 360 no-scope that shit right into their systems immediately. You are Special Agent 69, and the Illuminati is back and up to no good in your neighborhood. They've done something to all the memes. All the classic memes have been replaced with some kind of warped Illuminati version. Not cool, bro. Now you must travel through various layers of the Memeverse via your VR headset and get to the bottom of this. Now ultimately, this is one of the most self-aware asset flips I think I've ever seen. It has that charm and character of what someone just wanting to make a silly game for the hell of it would make, without caring what other people would think of it. I honestly didn't know what I expected coming into this, and after walking away from it, I can wholeheartedly say this was a great experience. One of the things I found right away was the movement and shooting controls were like legitimately good. And since this is a proper asset flip, I'm just gonna assume that this is thanks to like an already well-rounded FPS controller from the Unreal store. But that's fine. These things exist in gaming for a reason. I think this might be a fucking nuclear take here, but I truly don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with asset flips. and using a ton of stuff from the Unreal Store. These tools and assets exist to do a lot of heavy work in game design that the average indie dev just might not have the time or talent to do. Like, I get the norm for AAA studios is like thousands of people working on games, but when an indie dev is just trying to throw something together, I think they'd rather just buy a generic truck from the Unreal Store instead of spending hours trying to model one out themselves. Offloading this work to proper 3D modelers also has the benefit of creating like a whole economy around that as well. People like getting paid, right? Listen, the story here isn't going to blow anyone's mind, but like I said, you're basically on a mission to take down the Illuminati and save the memes. And at the end of the day, that's all you really need as a premise here. So with endlessly goofy stuff like a closet full of bongs, or a truth exhibit about how the earth is flat, or our secret weapon that will delete textures off the wall. This whole thing is just endless nonsense that ultimately is just a ton of fun. There's plenty of secrets and such to keep the completionist busy along the way, and the difficulty progression was great. The gameplay was legit challenging at times, and that's important. I love how just so self-aware this whole thing was, with stuff like the AK being called the bad guy gun, or Deagle being called the big D. There were no details here spared from the memes. You know, I play a lot of indie games, and sometimes they really struggle to be memorable. A lot of them often just do the same thing everyone else does, with maybe one or two things that make them stand out. With 420 Blaze It 2, the whole experience was so memorable, I feel like it's something I'll never truly forget. So is 420 Blaze It... So is 420 Blaze It Game of the Year, Dank Memes and Goated Dreams, Poggers Edition, actually Game of the Year? Objectively, probably not, but it is in my heart. Don't let your dreams be memes.
Thank you. Now watch this drive.